Let's talk about Starbucks. It's incredible to think about how a single coffee bean store from Seattle grew into this global empire. It totally changed our whole relationship with coffee, and it even gave us this idea of the third place, that cozy spot that's not home and not work. Today, we're going to dig into the amazing story of how they did it.
But here's the big question we've got to ask. What is Starbucks today? Are they still just a coffee company? Or have they secretly become a tech company that just happens to sell coffee? And that's really what we're going to explore, because the answer tells you everything about their vision, their values, and one of the most brilliant digital transformations we've ever seen. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with a deeply personal promise that became the company's foundation. Then we'll see how a trip to Milan sparked the big idea, walk through a crisis that nearly brought them down, and end up with the tech-driven machine they are today. Let's get into it.
First things first, we have to talk about the core concept that started it all, the third place. This was the game changer. It wasn't just about selling you a cup of coffee, it was about selling an entire experience, a feeling of belonging. But to really get where that idea came from, you first have to understand the man behind it all. To truly understand Starbucks, you have to get inside the head of its visionary leader, Howard Schultz. The entire DNA of this massive global company really comes down to one single, painful family memory. So Schultz grew up poor in Brooklyn, and one day he comes home to find his dad, a truck driver, laid up with a broken ankle. And what happens? He gets fired. No health insurance, no workers' comp, nothing. He lost his job and his dignity, just like that. And that moment, that feeling of helplessness, became the absolute bedrock of the company he would eventually build. It defined everything. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? His mission was never just about the coffee. It was about creating a company that treated people with dignity, a company that would have had his father's back. That very personal why became his incredibly powerful business how. And he actually did it. He put his money where his mouth was. From the get-go, Starbucks offered benefits that were, frankly, unheard of at the time. We're talking full health insurance, even for part-time workers. He gave them company stock, they called it Beanstalk, and even rolled out a plan for a free college education. He called them partners, not employees. And that built this incredible culture of loyalty.
So how does this guy with a powerful vision hook up with a tiny coffee shop in Seattle? Well, Schultz was working somewhere else, and he noticed this little store called Starbucks was ordering a ton of coffee makers. He got curious, went to visit, and was just blown away by the founder's passion. But it was a business trip they sent him on that changed the course of his life, and theirs. He goes to Milan, and it's there he has his light bulb moment. He sees these little espresso bars everywhere, and they're not just for grabbing a quick coffee. They're community hubs, places where people connect. He realizes that's the missing piece, the third place. He rushes back, pitches it to the Starbucks founders, and they say no. They just wanted to sell beans. So Schultz leaves, starts his own successful coffee bar, and then, in a crazy twist, the founders decide to sell Starbucks a couple years later. Schultz jumps on it, pulls together some investors, and buys the brand he knew he could make famous.
All right, let's jump forward to the company's biggest test. By 2008, Starbucks was a giant, but it had kind of lost its way. It expanded too fast, the stores felt cookie-cutter, the magic was gone. And then the financial crisis hit, and the company was literally on the brink of collapse. Schultz, who had stepped down, had to come back to save the soul of the very company he built.
And the first thing he does is, well, it's completely nuts. He decides to close all 7,100 Starbucks stores in the US for an entire day. Why? To retrain every single barista on how to make the perfect shot of espresso. This cost the company millions upon millions of dollars in lost sales. It was just an unthinkable move. And the reaction was, you guessed it, brutal. Wall Street went ballistic. They called it a publicity stunt, commercial suicide. They just could not wrap their heads around why a CEO would throw away millions in revenue. But you see, where they saw a loss, Schultz saw an investment. He knew that if the coffee wasn't great, if the soul of the company was gone, then nothing else mattered. It was a massive, expensive cultural reset.
So did it pay off? Well, the stock value has increased 16 times since that day. It turned out to be one of the greatest corporate comebacks ever. By focusing on the core product and reinvesting in his people, Schultz proved that the soul of the company was actually its most valuable asset.
Okay, so after that wild comeback, the company kept growing. But how do you maintain that soul when you're a global behemoth? Well, the company's own 2024 Global Impact Report gives us a really good look at how it all works today, and they break it down into 4 main pillars.
So these are the 4 pillars: partners, coffee, community, and planet.
It's really just Schultz's original vision scaled up. For partners, it's about continuing to offer those amazing benefits. For coffee, it's about making sure almost every single bean is ethically sourced. Community is about local stuff like donating leftover food. And Planet is all about sustainability, like their Greener Store initiative. It's their playbook for trying to be a good global citizen.
Now, check this out. Under that planet pillar, there's a really surprising fact. You'd probably think that most of their carbon footprint comes from, keeping the lights on in thousands of stores. But you'd be wrong. A whopping 94% of their emissions come from what's called Scope 3, their supply chain.
So what on earth does that mean? Let's break it down real quick. Scope 1 is the direct stuff, like the natural gas they burn in the roasteries. Scope 2 is the electricity they buy. But Scope 3, that's the big one. That's everything else. It's the dairy farms for the milk, the coffee farms, the paper cups, all of it. So for Starbucks, if they really want to tackle climate change, they have to go way beyond their own stores and look at their entire global network.
And this brings us to the second great transformation in the company's history. If the first one was creating the physical third place, this next one was all about building a digital one. This is the story of how a company built on face-to-face connection became an absolute master of the smartphone.
They created this thing they call a digital flywheel, and it is pure genius. This is where the tech company really comes out to play. It works like this. First, they give you a super smooth app that makes ordering a breeze. But here's the magic. Every time you order, you're giving them data. That data then powers personalized offers just for you, which makes you want to come back. That pushes you to use their super easy payment system, which, you guessed it, gives them even more data to optimize everything in their stores. It's a perfect loop that just keeps spinning faster and faster.
And the results? They're staggering. I mean, look at this. By 2021, over a quarter of all their sales in the US came from mobile orders. And their rewards program has over 24 million active members. They didn't just build an app, they built a digital extension of the coffee shop itself, and it completely changed their business.
So, what a journey. We've gone from a personal promise made in the wake of a family tragedy to a global community built in cafes to a tech titan that lives in your pocket. Starbucks built its entire kingdom on the idea of a physical place for human connection. But as more and more of us just order on our phones and swing through the drive-thru, it leaves us with one big question to chew on. What is the future of the original third place?